The Life R4ever Kent project is a 5-year project involving the partners Natural England, the Environment Agency, the Freshwater Biological Association and South Cumbria Rivers Trust. We are aiming to restore, revitalise and revive the River Kent and tributaries designated site, which is in Cumbria. We start off here in Kentmere in the headwaters and go all the way down to Morecambe Bay. The site is designated for its native species of the critically endangered freshwater pearl mussel, as well as our native white-claw crayfish and bullhead fish species. It's also designated for its river habitat with water crowfoot. Unfortunately, like most rivers, it's not in a good condition. It's designated as a triple SI, which is a site of special scientific interest, a SAC, which is a special area of conservation, and a Natura 2000 site. On the project, we are doing a lot of monitoring. We're undertaking some diffuse thin film gradient passive phosphorus sampling, which is just as interesting as saying it. And that gives us a time averaged level of phosphorus in the watercourse, and it goes to a much lower limit of detection, so it gives us a really, really accurate picture.
So we're out here in Boston on the main channel of the River Kent. Myself and Joe have just been out to change these phosphate samplers that we're using. We're going to build up a picture of phosphate concentrations across the River Kent catchment at several locations, and we're going to monitor for a full 12-month period. So we'll get an idea then of where phosphate concentrations are highest, and with that information it can help to understand where the freshwater pearl mussels are more likely to be successful and where would be good places to release them into the river in the future.
We're working at a landscape scale. We're engaging with landowners to find ways that are still good for them to join agricultural schemes and farm their farms in a way that works for them, but in a way that we can help the water quality. And that can involve the diffuse water pollution, reducing that with buffer strips and things like peatland restoration or planting higher up in the river valleys.
What we've done here is install a long fence and planted it up with hedgerow mix to create a buffer strip between the agricultural processes on the land and the river itself. We've also planted it up with trees. They have a number of functions. They're able to grow up and shade the watercourse to help mitigate against the impacts of climate change. The roots in the bottom, they will stabilise the riverbank and create a structure that's less prone to erosion. Where we're keeping the livestock away from the watercourse, we need to provide them with an alternative source of water. The way we do that is by having a Papa pump system here that doesn't use any energy or electricity. Instead, it uses a driveline that extracts water from the river, comes down a large diameter pipe into a series of valves. It then pressurizes the water using the canister at the top and pushes that water right up to the top of the hill where there's a big trough that the livestock can use to water from.
It's been really fun working with Rivers Trust. We've been putting together a plan and creating some action around the farm. We've put up fences to stop the animals from getting to the river. In doing so, we've subdivided our fields. My sheep and my cows are now able to move around, and I'm able to produce rest from my grass and grow better, longer swards. And all of the extra benefits that come with working with nature are also benefits for my business. Farming often gets a bit of a bad rep for trashing the environment, but here we're working together. The animals are benefiting on the farm and the animals are benefiting for the wildlife. It's kind of this symbiotic relationship that works really well. This could be the future of farming. Hopefully we'll see more and more of this across the UK, where farmers are thinking carefully about the way that they farm and how they do it. There is room for both of us in this, farming and nature.
Just further up this side of the field here, there was a really wet area that had an agricultural drain through it. What we decided to do was open it up to allow that water to sort of percolate through and create a more sort of natural wetland system. By doing that, we've now got water available for all sorts of different organisms to have as habitat that weren't there before at all. When you really get close to the edge of here, we've got diving beetles and dragonflies and all sorts of invertebrates. These really small features here are having a really huge impact on the triple SI just downstream.
We're removing embankments and we're removing revetments at various locations along the watercourse. We've also removed one small weir and we've got 2 more to go. That helps improve the passage for fish so that they can increase their range further up the river and get to more spawning grounds.
To restore the natural processes of the river, we're going to cut through part of the embankment and allow that river to flood onto the floodplain during those storm events. It has an impact on the gravels and the boulders and the cobbles that move through that system, and they'll move through slower. And it has a really positive effect on the white-clawed crayfish and freshwater pearl mussels, but also on some of the species that they're dependent on, such as Atlantic salmon and brown trout.
We're creating more spawning ground by putting large woody debris in the river. Just by having those trees in there, you create more steep pools and gravel bars and lovely different spawning sites to get more fish. The freshwater pearl mussels do rely on those as part of their life cycles. So getting that better habitat for the fish is helping the freshwater pearl mussels.
Because the freshwater pearl mussels are entirely reliant on juvenile Atlantic salmon or brown trout, it's really important that we try and restore their populations as well. One of the ways of doing that is installing fish refuges and flow deflectors. These features protect the fish during high flows and also give them a safe refuge from predators. In order to do this in a safe way, we fell small trees and put the canopy of it into the river, but crucially it's secured with 2 strings of 10-ton steel cable so that it's not a flood risk for anything going downstream.
One of the main aims of the project is to release freshwater pearl mussels back into the river. The native population is down to very low numbers, so we will be choosing a donor population. And for that, the project is undertaking genetics, metabolomics and encystment studies.
The freshwater pearl mussel is critically endangered, and in the 20th century there was a more than 90+% decline in the populations. We have become partners with the Life R4ever Kent project, where we are able to utilise our captive breeding knowledge and experience gained to hopefully reinforce the River Kent population. We hope to release at least 3,000 captive bred juveniles, with a further 1,000 or more to be released subsequently after the project has ended. We're hoping to be able to narrow down and identify a suitable donor population specifically for the River Kent, which will match things like genetics, host suitability, and also looking at doing research within metabolomics. What we wish to see in the future is a sustainable recruiting population within the thousands, hopefully in my lifetime, but we'll see how that goes.
We're also putting on workshops for the local community and getting a biosecurity message out. And that's a very simple message. It's check, clean and dry. So that is just checking your equipment, cleaning it off and drying it off if you're moving from one area to another. And that's for anyone going into the water, whether you're a paddleboarder, whether you're a wild swimmer, or just out for a walk with your dogs and they love a swim.
The Environment Agency is contributing 3 pieces of water quality monitoring equipment. We call them sondes. The sonde will measure information in the water like the pH level, the oxygen, the temperature, and feed that all back to a digital system that the project team have access to. A key deliverable is river restoration. We are drawing up a programme of works to make sure we identify the key milestones that we need to reach so that we can deliver our river restoration by the in-river working window of 2026. We have our fisheries team who carry out surveys for us for salmon. We go out and survey them each spawning season and again record that data and supply it back to the project team. We are also providing a supporting role to the other project partners for production of their habitats regulations assessments and flood risk activity permit applications through our dedicated ecologist who is working on the team.
We're also doing some eDNA work, that's environmental DNA, where we take water samples. Those are checked for DNA for freshwater pearl mussels, white claw crayfish, our native species, and the invasive signal crayfish and crayfish plague. That can help us make sure that we know it's definitely still not in the catchment and act as an early warning system in case anything does get picked up.
Environmental DNA is a tool that helps us pinpoint in a very large river system where you should be focusing your survey effort. It helps you understand the presence or absence of a species within that water body. Basically, we'll be trying to pick up small amounts of DNA in the water, and the key target species we're looking for is white claw crayfish. We're also looking at potential for freshwater pearl mussels.
The white claw crayfish are currently safe in the catchment from any of the invasives. However, because they're in surrounding catchments, we're working on having some ARC sites set up in case of any future biosecurity events. And that way we can have an action plan in place to make sure that we know where we can have those safe spaces to be able to regrow the population from at a future date. One of the wonderful parts of the project is getting volunteers involved. We're dealing with invasive species such as Himalayan balsam and activities like tree planting and hedge planting as well.
We're here in a rainy field to do a bit more removal of this plant behind us called Himalayan balsam. We're removing it because it's a really invasive plant and it completely takes over the riverbanks. Because we've had such a success in getting rid of it, we're really, in most areas, tracking down the last few plants. Really, to people just starting out removing Himalayan balsam, it can be done and it can be got rid of, but you do have to be persistent.
The greatest strength of the project is the partnership working. On their own, none of our organisations could do the work we're doing here, and getting everyone involved with their own expertise, with their knowledge, with their resources around them is really what's made this come together. And so everyone working across the project is really helping to make a difference and make a worthwhile effort to really improve this designated and beautiful site.